Grit and grace, that's how we grow. Step by step and child by child we know. There's power in the words we say. We lift the voices light the way. Grit and grace, it's a journey we all share. For every child everywhere.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Grit and Grace, a literacy journey. I'm your host, Gretchen Gadel, alongside my mother and co-host, Angie Hanlon. So today, here we are. It is 2026. It is January. Where did the first half of the school year go? I mean, it absolutely flew by, and now here we are. And the other day, I was thinking about how the 2 semesters of a school year are kind of uneven, because when you start school in August, it's fall is just right around the corner, and it's football season, and everyone has their little fresh sharpened pencils, and they're so happy. And then you roll into Halloween, and their little costumes are just so cute, even though that day can be a little chaotic. It's the costumes. You're like, but look at her, she's a little butterfly today, she's precious. And then Thanksgiving, we're thankful for one another. Christmas, the most magical time of the year. I love being a teacher at Christmas time and seeing their excitement and the joy on their face. And then Christmas break, the sweetest relief of all. And then you come back from Christmas break and it's January, the longest month of any school year. And when January finally ends, you're so excited, only to realize that it's February. And February has Valentine's Day, the craziest party day for any elementary teacher.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And how? I always say this. How on earth is the Valentine's Day more hectic and chaotic than Halloween, when they're dressed in costume and it's literally a holiday about candy? And one of my friends put it the best, she explained it the best I've ever heard. She was like, because Valentine's Day, all the hype is at school. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. And so, you survive Valentine's Day. And then, my God, it's St. Patrick's Day. And the pinching and the leprechauns and the green pea and the toilets. And it's just... It's for me, it's the most overwhelming day of the school year, every day. And then you realize that you've made it through Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. And what's your reward? State testing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's second semester. Welcome to second semester, right, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you know what? It's all going to be okay, and everyone's just going to keep the Christmas memories in their heart, and we're going to power through to spring break and summer break. It's right around the corner, guys. It will be here before we know it. But anyway, okay, so today, the focus of our podcast, we're diving into one of the most critical and often most overlooked elements of great teaching, and this is the delivery of explicit instruction. And I feel like we've kind of hinted about this before in several episodes, but we wanted to take the time today to really just slow down, map it out, and explain what it is, what it looks like, what it feels like.
Yes. So thanks, Gretchen, for the introduction. And I do want to say, so I am the dork, the nerd, whatever word you want to use. And you know this about me. You didn't know I'm going to say it right now, but you do know this about me. January and February, I'm always like, ooh, deep dive into the data. Let's dive in there. Let's make sure. I used to make some of my teachers as a principal crazy, because they would kind of have the blahs and the blues and the superintendent days. You worked with me, and I was superintendent. I was drilling into the data, and we've only got so many weeks left, and what impact can we have? And there was a day that you looked at me one time. I don't know if you remember. You were an interventionist at the school where I was principal, and you're like, you just need to take a breath for a moment. Do you remember that?
Oh, but it
We
doesn't
were in Angie
surprise
Jackson's office. We were doing the data meeting, data team room, and I was so excited. And it was the second grade teacher that you and I are close friends with. And it was Samantha, and she was completely overwhelmed. And I was just high pitched voice and da 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 da. And I had not, you told me later, you're like, you had not read the room.
me. No,
And
I believe that.
I don't know if you remember
I,
that. And I
I
had
fully believe.
not. But my little heart was racing, and we only had so many weeks to make an impact with
Oh
these
God, you
students. And
gotta stop. It's killing me again right now. I mean, let me just say, I love you and I love data, and it could just be the 35th week of pregnancy speaking, but you're making me ill. Like,
so we're going to dive into today's topic because I know it's one that you love. But we do, as teachers, spend so much time planning what we're going to teach and talking as teachers at grade level teams, content day meetings about what we're going to teach. But how we deliver that instruction can actually make or break the lesson. And I think that so often that is not talked about. That isn't planned as explicitly as it should be planned. So this episode is all about bringing your plan to life in a way that is clear, purposeful, and full of energy. And that plan for the delivery is intentional. So, we're going to unpack today what it means to explicitly plan your delivery. That means from using frequent student responses to maintaining that brisk, perky pace to stopping often to check for understanding and keeping students highly engaged from literally the start of the lesson to the
Mhm.
final second of that lesson. And every single second, every minute matters. So, when delivery's tight, intentional and responsive, then learning sticks. It's one of the reasons it's so important. So let's talk about how to make every single moment of your instruction count because it's not just what you say, it's also how you say it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Gretchen, let's get started.
Okay, so we know that you are frequently in classrooms all over the nation, and you
Yes.
said that you recently witnessed a lesson where you felt the delivery was perfect. And you
Yes,
said you wanted to talk about that today. So, what would you like to share about that?
I did. And so, as you know, what the listeners don't know, I said to Gretchen, in pre-planning for this that I was in a school recently and I was actually blown away. I was blown away by the delivery. And I was going to just be sitting in the room, Gretchen. I had planned to just kind of sit there. I had some extra time between my morning and my afternoon presentation. And so the director of curriculum instruction had said, "Hey, this is a great room. We know that this is a room that you would really like. And so you can kind of sit in there." And so I was really planning my afternoon session, planning my lunch. I was going to have lunch with a special person that day. And so I didn't even have a notebook out. I was really just kind of sitting there catching my breath. And the instruction literally blew me away. And I grabbed a notebook. So do you want to hear about it?
I do. I want to hear. I'm excited. I'm excited. I love about hearing your experiences in the classroom.
Okay, so to the listener, she has no idea what I'm getting ready to say. And she catches me off guard all the time. So, all you mothers that are listening out there, it's my chance now as the mom. So, Gretchen, it was your lesson. It was your lesson. Okay, so to the listeners, I had the extreme privilege last week of training teachers in Gretchen's school.
Yes, and
Um,
it was awesome. You did fantastic. We loved it.
Thank you. It was so exciting. And so I went to different grade levels and I had an hour with each grade level and we were talking about the design and the delivery
Mhm.
of lessons. And so the lady that works at your school who is over curriculum and instruction and for elementary and secondary, and she was kind of my host and leading everything around in the elementary principal that day. And so they said, we are going to, give you the opportunity to have lunch with your daughter. She's got a little bit of time if you just want to kind of sit in the back of Miss Gadel's classroom. I'm like, oh, I would love to. I kind of had my planner and I was going to just sit back there. Gretchen, I was blown away. I grabbed
Oh my
my notebook.
gosh.
I grabbed my notebook. I grabbed my walkthrough tool that I love, and I was tally marking, which I love to do. Leaders, listen up because I love to do this. Tally marking your whole group responses, individual responses, and how many times you were going to the student responses. You know, Anita Archer, you've heard me say this a lot. Anita
Mhm.
Archer used to say 3 to 5 times per minute is how often we should go to students in the delivery for that brisk, perky pace. I've heard her say now even 7 to 10 times per minute, which is moving. Do you know you were going, your average was 9 seconds.
Oh,
You were
wow.
going, I'm sorry, you were going 9 times a minute. Your average, your group responses, you went to the students 9 times in a minute. There was literally a rhythm, a flow. And I
Mhm.
thought, had I known it was going to be like that, I get goosebumps talking about it, I would have recorded it. I didn't have permission. No one knew I was even going to be in the room that day. You did not know. And here's why I wanted to talk to you. And I am going to put you on the spot, but here's
Yeah.
why I wanted to talk about it. You had no idea I was coming in that day.
No.
That was just a regular old lesson. That was a regular whole group lesson out of the ELA block. And Gretchen, I'm not saying this. I have been biased about you in the past. I'm not in this situation. Honey, it was absolute perfection.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel a lot better because this moving to fourth grade has not been my most
I know.
confident move.
I know. Yep.
And I was even thinking the other day after you had been at school and we had received the little mini PD session, I was just like, oh man, I could have crushed that if I had stayed in 4K. So the fact that you thought what you saw in fourth grade was wonderful makes me feel a lot better.
Good, good. So I want to talk about it because the thing that I was just amazed by was how often you were switching those responses, which is something I do train about. If any of our listeners have worked with me as a consultant or listened to any of my presentations, I talk about we do have to plan for these. What will be the choral responses? What will be the whole group responses? What will be the turn and talks? And the things that when you had them do a whole group response, that core response, it was the perfect type of question. It was the thing where everyone could answer together. When you had them do the turn and talk, it was to go to actually apply what they just talked about, find it in text, talk about it. So just talk to me a bit about the delivery of that lesson, what all you had students doing, and the how many times. I also want to get through this. How many times you went back, Gretchen, to your learning intention and success criteria? Okay, start
Um,
talking.
Okay, so as everyone knows, I love learning intentions and I love success criteria, especially because it is just that constant reminder of, okay, what we're doing has a purpose. Like we have a mission to accomplish today. And so I always try to keep that fresh in my kids' minds as we're moving through the lesson. And also, I make a lot of my worksheets that we do in small group because I want to make sure that they're at a DOK level that's appropriate for what they're going to be questioned on at the end of the week with their unit test. I don't want to be asking all DOK 1 questions and then boom, on Friday, you're expected to be at a DOK 3. So I
Right.
make a lot of my own worksheets, scaffolded. They'll start with a simple question that then builds to a harder question by the end. And so I spend a lot of time saying, like, okay, right now, here's what we're doing. We are identifying characteristics of, whatever character we're reading about. Or, okay, right now, what we're doing is we are talking about the point of view. So that then when they go back and they do that work and they read those questions, they're like, oh, I already talked about that before. And they can make those connections and build upon and build off of those conversations.
Yeah.
So I feel
And
like that's very important.
you were doing point of view. That was
Yeah.
one of the one author's point of view. And then
Mhm.
you were also doing text features. That was your
Yes.
second.
Yes.
Um, and every single time you pointed out a text feature in the text, you referred them right back and they would look right over at the board
Mhm.
for that learning intention and said, and what's our learning intention? And the success criteria was that they could identify
The text feature,
the
yes.
the
And
text
explain
feature.
how they had improved their understanding. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely. So then that went into, okay, so, and I think I even said on this day, like, all right, step one, what is the
you
text
did.
feature? And we just
Yes.
quickly reviewed our definition. So, text feature, it's a photograph, map, or graph included in the text. And
Love the
then,
good
okay,
emotions. Love that.
so that was step one, to identify what type of text feature we had. And then what is the purpose of that text feature? Why is it included? And then how does that help me better understand the text? And so for a lot of that, like especially for that step three, we're still in the phase where I'm thinking aloud
Yeah.
about that a lot. And so I even, pointed out to them like, oh, I just made this connection in my head. Like, of course, this is why the author would
Yeah.
include this map, this graph. Um,
Which is
and
a think aloud, which we should be doing in our modeling. It's one of the things that we should do. And it
mhm,
was beautiful the way you did it. When you got to the map, because that could have been the tricky part. You had
yeah,
done the one picture with the
mhm,
caption. It had a heading and it had the picture, the photograph, and you went through. It wasn't an illustration, it was a photograph, and then the caption. And again, here we go, group responses. You had everyone read that caption together, and then you asked the question. And so, what is that telling us? But then when you went to the map, I could tell that you had really thought about how you wanted to bring that out
mhm.
because the map was, I found through the lesson, connected to the trickiest part of the text.
Absolutely, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
So, that you
So
did a brilliant think aloud for the students then before you got to that. Yeah.
thank you, because it was one of those like when I even initially looked at the text, I was like, why on earth? And then it clicked for me, and I was like, oh, that's genius. So the text that we were working on was about genetically modified foods, and it was an argumentative text. And so they had this map, and the map was of Africa. And we were talking about US farmers growing either organic or genetically modified foods. And I was like, map of Africa. What on earth? But then I put it together and I really had to bring this out for the kids. It was showing how many countries, they'd just chosen the continent of Africa. It was showing how many countries in Africa do not have enough food to feed all of their people. And so I had to lead them to the connection of, okay, so we've learned that genetically modified foods can last longer and they can be grown faster. So if they, you know, last longer, we have time to export them, to send them overseas. And then, if they grow faster, well, we can do that more often and we can help close some of the gaps in these food shortages. And so, really bringing out that point, I could even see on my students' faces. They were like,
Yes.
oh, and so that led us to one of the author's claims that helped us identify the author's point of view. So,
And I don't know if you heard it, but there were the section of kids in the room that I was sitting, the part of the room where I was at, they gasped
yeah,
because you had them turn and talk to your partner. And I heard them when they made that
connection.
connection.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then you said, and you, oh, and then, oh, I just wanted to hug you. I want to hug you right now. We're in different states right now. But then you gave them the sentence starter for them to turn and talk to their partner about then what it was that they had learned in the map. Why did the author include that map there? And so
Mhm.
then I heard the students kind of with excitement say, you know, oh, the author put the map in the story, in the text. They said
Yes.
text, not story. Yes, all the academic language was there too. That was brilliant. But I heard them with their gasp make that connection.
Mhm.
I could see some of their faces from where I was seated, but then I could also hear some of them. They had their back to me, but then I could also hear that gasp and with the excitement when they
Yes.
turned around. And then when you went at the end of the lesson, there was one of the success criteria everyone had not met.
Yeah.
And you guys said that you would be finishing that up tomorrow. But when you got to the one about text features, you said, did we all meet this one? And with so much excitement, they all knew that they had.
They had.
Because,
Mhm.
yeah, because they had gotten all of the questions that you ask at
Yes.
such a high level. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely a highlight of that lesson. I really enjoyed that. And then as far as the frequent responses,
It
um,
was impressive. It was
you know,
impressive.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the biggest reasons that I tell people, I'm like, yes, it's great for mastery. Yes, it's great for retention. It will save you from behavior issues in your classroom. And that's honestly why I questioned as much as I do, you know.
Just to keep them on task and
Yes,
engaged. And yeah.
absolutely. Yes. But so that,
They don't have time to get off task though.
right. And so that, especially that text was very language heavy. It was
It
very
was.
vocabulary rich. It was a very difficult
It
text.
was.
When you have kids, we started the year with maybe only 3 kids on grade level. Now we're up
Yeah.
to 15. They've worked very, very hard. But
Yes, your results are outstanding. Yeah.
yes, even when you're on a fourth grade level, the word genetically modified. Like those are hard words. Those aren't words that you encounter every day. Bacterium was in that
Yeah.
text. And
Yes.
so I had to do a lot of thinking aloud and a lot of questioning to really just ask simple questions to help them connect what it was that they were reading. And I
Yes.
did with that text, I did a lot of repeat after me. And so it
You
would look
did.
like this, like, okay, I'll say it. You repeat after me. The author's point of view is, and they would say it, and then I would give them the point of view. I know this
Yes.
because, and then have them repeat it back to me. So we did, I mean, we did a ton of that.
Oh, it was so much. It was so much. Well, literally 9 times per minute was your average.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. When we talk about guided practice, when we talk about the we do, you're still doing a lot of modeling within that. And it's okay to
Yes.
give them that level of support, especially when you look at your standards. Fourth grade is a year that's very heavy on third grade review and then
Yep.
setting a foundation for fifth grade. So it
It's a
is
tricky
okay.
grade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay to give them a lot of that information because they're not fully expected to do it on their own yet. You are setting the stage.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking the time. And I do want to point out to the listeners, I saw as you were getting the kids lined up and then you and I were going to go to lunch and I caught I think about 30 minutes of your lesson. I think that was the amount of time I was in there. And I saw your notes. Um, you had so many questions written in your manual. You had that text was marked up. You had a lesson plan. And I think that's so important for teachers to know. And why I wanted to bring that out is it had been planned and designed. It was intentional.
And so with my curriculum, we have what we call the reading and writing companion. And so they have a book that we go through, and that's really where we start introducing them to annotating. We have them circle, we have them underline. And one of the best things that you can do for yourself is before you ever teach it, you go through and read and
Yes.
underline what it is that they're asking for you to do. And so that was a lot of the markings that they had. I had gone through and previewed and marked the text and underlined and then thought, okay, so this is what they've wanted me to underline. Let's think about the importance and what questions do I need to ask in addition to this.
And the way you scaffolded the questions and led them through.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I will forever regret not being able to record the lesson because it was, honey, it was a master class in watching the progression because they had little to any understanding at the
Yeah.
beginning,
Mhm.
literally like none.
Right.
But the what you led them through in that short amount of time and the level of understanding that they had at the end and the way then that they were speaking and then using the academic language straight out of the text in their answers
Mhm.
it was brilliant.
Well,
So
thank you. Thank
way
you. I'm glad.
to go.
I'm glad you thought
So
so. I'm still sitting here thinking, like, did I do better than I usually do just because she was in the room and I felt the pressure and I was sweating through my clothes? But no,
oh
it
surely
really
not.
was natural. No, it
No,
it really was. I was
you
just
look
like, oh,
natural. Yeah.
This is
But
just my mom sitting in my classroom waiting for lunch.
I guess I'm not going to worry anymore if people say I make them nervous when I come in, if I even make my own daughter nervous when I walked in the room. So,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I feel a little more pressure with you than most people do because I'm like, oh my God, it's like walking around with a target over my head sometimes. Like
Oh,
Angie Hanlon is my mom. Angie
oh my
Hanlon
God.
is my mom. Literacy
Well,
guru
it was
is
great.
my mom.
And the reason why, to all the listeners and to you, the reason why I wanted to bring that out is the point that I so desperately in telling you why I wanted to do this episode is
Mhm.
as a consultant now, what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing teachers take the time to explicitly plan the delivery piece. When to put those questions in, which
Mhm.
questions will be a choral group response, which one will be a turn and talk. And then anticipating the answers because I could tell you had done that. And if they said this, you were ready to go with the next higher level of
Mhm.
thinking question. And then when they faltered on one, you're like, okay, let me go back. Let me tell you what I was thinking. You went right back then to the modeling and the think aloud. And so I could tell, and I know this about you too. I do know this from watching you plan. You will then do an if then. Like if the
Yeah.
students answer this and you're
Mhm.
ready. If they answer this, I'm going to hit them with this question. If they don't get it, here's what I'll try to do. And so I saw you in the moment doing that. But it's all about then the whole thing I want to bring out. Listeners, if you only take one thing away, it's that our delivery cannot be in the seat of the moment. In the moment, it must be designed. The thing that I learned from all of my time studying, reading, following, listening, working with Anita Archer has been this: you cannot deliver an explicit lesson if you haven't designed one.
Right.
So,
Right. And one of the things that I also want to point out is it becomes easier as you do it over time.
oh, you get in a rhythm. It's
Absolutely.
a feeling and you
Mhm.
know. Like, and then honestly, once you do that, once you learn this is the pace of what explicit delivery feels like,
Yep.
this is what that brisk, perky pace is. It's a feeling and you like step right back into it. I get into that flow every time
Mhm.
I go back into model a room. And it just then it comes natural. And it's like once you get there, you can't not do it.
Right. And it also, as someone who has taught, I think the other day someone asked me, they were like, "What grade have you not taught?"
Yeah,
And yeah, it was
you're
kind of funny.
pre-K to 12 all the
I've
way.
done a little bit of everything. But pacing and your questioning, it feels the same as as the teacher. It's felt the same to me at every grade level. But for my kids, it feels different from their perspective because when I was in 4K, good lord, if I got in 9 student responses like you had said, I probably got in like 15 when I was in 4K because their answers are so much simpler. The letter A says add, the letter A says, and they say it. And then you have to
Right.
do it like
Yeah.
3 more times.
Yeah. Great point.
Whereas when I taught high school, it was like, okay, so today we're going to talk about theme. The theme is, but then we'd have to, slow it down just a little bit to really pinpoint those details that we were looking for and pull them out. So every grade level, as the teacher, you should be moving at a brisk pace, but know that your student responses might take a little more time, and that's okay. What you want, what you're striving for, is that their brain never stops moving. It never dulls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So now let's actually dive into some of the things that we had kind of planned to. Well, we never know what we're going to say, but I mean, some of the topics, questions that we want to at least address.
Okay, so what does planning for delivery actually look like for a teacher?
Well, as we pinned for it, it means we're not just planning what we're going to teach. We're also planning how we're going to teach it. We're actually planning the delivery. We're actually thinking about what we're going to do. So I always ask, I know you do too, when are students going to respond in this lesson? Build in those response points. What is the question that I will ask them? Is
Mhm.
this going to be a choral response? Is this going to be a turn and talk? Will this be a group one? Will I have like heads together? Everyone at the table lean in and talk? How am I going to check for understanding? What examples am I going to model with my thinking? And that's one of the things that I beautifully saw in your lesson. But actually planning for the delivery means scripting in those opportunities for engagement. I
Yes.
used to code at the dining room table. I know you remember these nights. My lesson plan, my teacher's manual, and I would code in that manual a capital C for if it was going to be a choral response, and then T/T for a turn and talk. And
Mhm.
I mean, I would go through and I had those notes, but then setting that brisk pace is actually because you get the brisk pace because you've spent that time planning.
Right.
If you're making it up in the moment, you're going to dull a bit and not
Mhm.
be able to have that brisk pace because you don't know where you're going next. But always knowing when you're going to pause, when you're going to clarify, you are anticipating when your students might need you to stop. But every single part of that is intentional. And why? Why do I say that it's intentional? Because great delivery never, ever happens by accident. And
Right.
I realized after I learned that I got lucky in some of my lessons. I did.
Mhm.
I got lucky. But then once I really started planning for an explicit delivery, it wasn't luck that those questions were answered. It was planned. And then it was like, yes, job well done at the end. Like, yes, I carried it
Mhm.
off. Yes, we got it done. Yes, they got there. But I had that planned. I knew where I was going to take those students by the end
Right.
of that lesson.
And I think one of the best things to do, especially for someone who's just starting this process, is to literally like close your eyes, your kids, and visualize, okay, what do I think their response is going to be? What is the response I want? Now, what questions do I need to ask in addition to what the curriculum has provided me in order
Yes.
to get them there, in order to have them answer that question? Also, for anyone who has never done anything like this, and this is brand new information, Mom, don't kill me for what I'm about to say. Start in math. Start trying to do this when you teach math because that is one of the easiest places to incorporate the I do, we do, you do with a partner and then you do by yourself. It's so easy to break that down with math problems and really practice your modeling and your thinking aloud there and get the feel for it and then start incorporating that into your ELA lessons. And you'll start to see like, oh wow, what I'm supposed to say here is really wordy, but I can naturally break it up like this.
Well, in that math example, teachers often too, that when I'm training teachers and coaching teachers, they'll say, I do that in math.
Mhm.
Like for a group response, 5 times 7, we don't need to call on one kid
Right.
what to answer what is 5 times 7. Every student, and that's where we have those signals. So think time, 5 times 7. You lower your hand for the speak now, and everybody responds with the answer.
Mhm.
I don't want just one student, and it's one of the things that honestly we've got to move away from is getting just the one response, one response. We want everyone thinking, everyone responding, and the students never knowing when we're going to call on them. We don't want
Yes. And
just raising a hand with one child. And even with the turn and talk, I see teachers kind of make a flaw, make an error with it. They'll have them turn and talk, and everybody just talked. And then they'll go around and then they'll ask every single group to share. And I just look at the time ticking away. No, you're the teacher. You heard the responses. Say, all right, let me tell you some of the best responses that I
Mhm.
just heard. Or let me give you some of the interesting responses. Show me agree if you and your partner said that as well.
Right. And so that in that lesson that you saw, that's one of the times when I took to have them, I would, have them repeat after me what they should have said with their
Yes.
partner because then I was double dipping. For those who had gotten it, that was another exposure. And then for those who didn't, I was providing feedback. Like this is what you
Yes.
should have been
The
thinking.
corrective feedback. Yes.
Mhm.
Affirmative feedback to the ones that got it, corrective
Yep.
feedback to those that didn't. Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And so you know Another thing for someone who is just starting out, you're going to have to say to your kids, okay, we're going to try something different, and you have to explain to them, like, we're not going to raise hands anymore, we're all going to answer together, because the way our schools are set
Mhm.
up, it is very kind of, I don't even know the word to use that's polite, prison like, maybe.
Well,
you know
uh, I don't know about that, but I do see teachers all the time and it just kills my soul. Oh, no, I only want a raised hand. No, I will. You've got kids that are dying to respond. No, no, I need to see hands. Show me your hands. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Let
Mhm.
everyone turn and talk, because when you go through the one child talks, the one child
Yeah.
talks, the one child talks, one, there's so much time that we're losing, but
Mhm.
then also those kids know that only one child's going to respond. And I do want to bring out in today's lesson too, or in today's podcast, some of the questions we've got to stop saying. And this is one of the things I trained your staff on. There are questions we need to stop asking in our rooms. And one is, who knows?
Mhm.
Who can tell me? Can someone tell the class? Who can tell me? Who has the answer? Who knows the answer? Is there someone? Does anyone? What that does is, and all of your staff had their aha moment with this, is we, with our words, are saying, I just need one kid to answer.
Right.
I need one student. Who can tell me? Who is someone? Can
And
one of you tell the class? I mean, we're literally saying, okay, I only need one brain to
I
answer this
want
question.
I want to bring out the point that, especially as someone who taught 4K, or as some people call it, preschool, there is a time and a place to talk about raising hands and having proper communication, but that doesn't have to be in your instruction. You need to get really creative with that. So that could be, for part of circle time. Okay, what did you do this weekend? And that's where you can have them raise their hands and, work on those social cues and speaking one at a time and not blurting. But that doesn't have to be when you ask, what sound does the letter A make?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
but okay, so now what are the signs of strong delivery in a classroom?
Well, you see it, but I always love you feel it. You
Yes.
feel it as soon as you walk in the room. There literally is a buzz, an energy, a pacing. There's a feeling to it.
Mhm.
Students are responding on a frequent basis. There's a rhythm, there's a timing, and also one of my favorite words, there's a sense of urgency. And there's a strong sense that that teacher is in command of that lesson, of both the content and the energy level. That teacher, they know where they're going. They are driving that lesson. Another thing about strong delivery, which I love, transitions are tight.
Yeah.
Transitions are tight. Every single thing you had them do, they were on the rug, they were on their, not on the rug, but up on your carpet. They were on the floor. They went back to their seats. They opened their workbooks. But Gretchen, you gave a time limit for everything. Open
Yes.
your books in 9, 8,
Mhm.
7, 6. Be ready to turn to your response to your partners in 3, 2, 1. So transitions are tight. They're planned. There's a purpose for every single thing they do. Students have that routine. I think strong delivery too, it relies heavily on classroom routines. But you
Yes,
see
it
choral
does.
responses, you
Mhm.
see partner talk, you see eyes tracking, you see hands moving. You had students even respond with, like, point to the caption, point to the heading, point to the map. Everyone put your finger on the map. Find the map in 3, 2, 1. Put your finger on the map key. Everyone show me that you found the map key. Okay, what does the map key tell us? You had them chorally respond together and
Mhm.
read the different parts that were in the key. But the teacher, too, with that, in that strong delivery, is constantly checking for understanding and making those adjustments in real time, like we previously mentioned. If the students get it right,
Right.
if they get it right, then this is where I go next. If they don't, what do I do? And then the students with a strong delivery, the students are with you, the teacher, every single step of the way, every single step of the lesson. Every single student is with you. And one of the things that I was so impressed with your lesson is 100% engagement 100% of the time that I was in there. And the weather was bad. It was bad weather that day. It was the first day back from break. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah, it was the
First day
first day
back
back.
after Christmas
We were
break.
expecting a snow day the next day. Yeah.
Yeah, ice was coming. Weather was bad. It was extremely cold temperature first day after Christmas winter break, right before lunch. It was a time when there could have been a lull. Kids could have been off task. Not one. But that's what you see with strong delivery,
Mhm.
100% of engagement, 100% of the time.
One thing I want to say about choral responses, because so many people are like, does that feel like chaos? It very much can, but you have to be intentional with how they're going to chorally respond. So
Yes.
on days like, because let's be honest, you have days where kids make you crazy. It's okay to say that. And so if there's one of those days where I'm like, if one more person speaks in a spastic or a loud voice, I'm going to lose it. I will say, okay, everyone in a whisper, tell me. So then they're not
Yes.
shouting at you. You have to take the time and you have to explicitly teach how to respond to explicit instruction.
You
You
do.
really
That's a
do.
good
Yes.
point. Yeah, you do. Yes.
Yep.
But you had students responding to like thumbs up, thumbs
Yep.
down, or
Mhm.
like point to the
Yes.
text,
Because
show me that you're ready to write. Yeah, you had them
that's
doing
what
all those.
works for me because sometimes the 100 responses at once, it
Yeah.
it does make me feel like a little like I'll get a headache or can get kind
Yeah.
of
Anxious.
overwhelmed. So I had to
Yeah.
figure out, okay, what works for me that also is going to work for my students.
Yes. And you had them all right at one point. They had talked about the answer together. So now pencils, you had them like, show me that you've got your pencil, you're ready. Okay, now all of you write. And
Yep.
your sentence begins with, you gave the sentence starter, and so when they were done, they laid their pencil down, they put their pencil,
You
and
know,
that was a signal you knew they were done because they had put their pencil down. All of that though, they're still responding. You're still
another
getting student responses.
another thing about that, and this I have especially found in fourth grade because sometimes when I was in 4K it's okay to, like I said, kind of slow your pace a little there because you're looking at the mastery of the letter formation and you are going to have to take more time to give feedback. But in fourth grade it is very much okay, that's quick. Writing is one of the places where your pace can just die. That brisk pace can die if you're waiting for every single kid to finish writing
Yeah.
that sentence.
And
So,
you were
yep,
giving a time limit for every
yes.
single
And
response.
my kids know as they're writing. So let's say that the sentence is the author used this word because blank. As they're writing that on their paper, I'm saying that out loud 5 to 10 times
Yeah,
while they're
you were going
writing.
multiple. Yeah.
So when that time's up, who cares if they finished writing the sentence? They've heard me say that 10 times, and the purpose was they were writing it for mastery. So, okay, well, they've mastered it. They've heard it enough. They know now specifically what the answer is to that question. Move on.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
But okay, next, let's see. What do we have? Okay, what's one small change teachers can make tomorrow to boost engagement during delivery?
The easiest one and the thing that it's such a game changer is build in those student responses.
Yep.
Start off if you're not used to doing it. Anita Archer began by saying 3 to 5 times per minute. So 3 times per minute, that's every 20 seconds. I actually worked with a teacher who would actually watch the clock, Christy. And when she would like hold a timer and make sure that she had gotten so many responses. Sarah would actually plan those in, you know,
Yeah.
she would actually put in her lesson student response and like do a little asterisk for like, and she would like count, okay, how many responses and about like, she would look at chunks of like, this should be like 5 minutes of teaching, this should be 5 minutes. And she would kind of build in all of hers in her manual. Christy would actually look at the clock or hold a stopwatch in her hand. I did that too as well. I always would like hold in the beginning timer so that I was really looking at how many I was getting like in 2 minutes and 5 minutes and chunks of time.
Mhm.
So, but start off every 15 to 20 seconds, go to the students, and it can be something as simple as, okay, here's one. Let's read the title together. Okay, we read the title together and now read the title to me. There's one more added response. Put your finger on the first word of text. Show me that you're there. If you're there, say I'm there. See, they've responded again. All right, and let's read the first paragraph together. They
Yep.
start reading, stop. I ask the question. And then I think for this, you've got to have those signals though to give them, you know, to give them that response. Or like you said, it's not going to be well designed
Organized.
because they won't. Yeah. Did you say choreographed?
Organized.
Organized. Oh, okay. Yeah, but it's not. So you want them all to answer together. But one way is to really that teachers can start doing tomorrow, or if they listen to this on the way to school today, then build in student responses. And that could be a choral response. It could be a quick turn and talk, something, a thumbs up, thumbs down, a numbered response. Look at the responses. You know, you can have like responses on the board, and is your answer one, two, or three? Show me
Yeah.
on your chest right in front of you, one, two, or three. Anything though that gets all students thinking, where they are doing the thinking, not just sitting and getting, not just sitting and getting. And then that actually keeps the pace lively, and it also keeps the students alert and
Hmm.
engaged in the content. I think
Yep.
so many people think engagement strategies are so that they're physically engaged, like they're still, they aren't crawling on a rug or they aren't like falling out of the chair. But no, we want their brains alert and in that content with us as well. But that
Mhm.
student responses to me is the easiest way to start in and just really start building in that
Yes, and
boost the
that
engagement.
especially it does so much, especially like you can just start with simple like repeat back to me. So like here, let's do an example. I'll say it, you repeat back to
Okay,
me. Okay,
sure.
everyone, today we're going to talk about point of view. What are we going to talk about?
Point of view.
Good job. Point of view is
Point of view is
how the author
how the author
feels about a topic.
I love the motion, feels about a topic.
Good job. Once again, today we're talking about point of view. What are we talking about?
Point of view.
5 seconds. Turn and tell your partner. What are we talking about?
We're talking about author's point of view.
Good job, everyone. What are we talking about?
Point of view.
I'll
Author's
say
point of
it.
view.
You repeat after me. The author's point of view is
The author's point of view is
how the author
how the author
feels about a topic.
feels about a topic.
Yep.
Great.
So, super simple. They've had
Yes.
to do no thinking. All they've had to do is repeat back and build those repetitions.
But when you went back to the question, okay,
Mhm.
when you went back to the success criteria at the end, there were students that were making the motions.
Oh, yeah.
And so you grinned and smiled like, yes, I see you making the motions. And so you started doing the motions. But they did it without any prompting at
Mhm.
all. It was so ingrained in them. But my goodness, there had been so many repetitions in the
Right.
lesson. How could they not have gotten it?
Yeah. And so the repetitions, I feel like student questioning, that's the easiest way to build in your repetitions. That's how I do
Yes.
it. That's what I rely on.
Yeah.
Someone asked me one time, they were like, you talk about repetitions a lot. How do you do that? And I was like, I am constantly asking questions. I question all the time.
And you also then teach and have them echo, teach and have them echo,
Yes.
teach and have them echo. Yeah.
Okay, so now, next question. What if a teacher says, I'm not naturally energetic? Can they still deliver great instruction?
Okay. I'm so glad you did that one. So I get a lot, and if you go back in time, when I first became the instructional coach in my home school district, I was really given a hard time in the beginning because a lot of people said to me about explicit instruction, well, that's your personality.
Mhm.
Do you remember
And
that?
it does come very naturally to your personality. It comes very naturally to mine.
It
Mhm.
does. And so I, in the beginning, not gonna lie, kind of took offense to that. And so I'm like, oh, they're just wanting a way out. And, or like, oh, you want us to just be like you? No, it wasn't to be like me. No, it was, I had been trained in effective instruction and I wanted to produce then effective instruction.
Mhm.
And I wanted to coach teachers to be able to deliver effective instruction. So I have seen teachers say this though, of like, that's so not me. You and I are close friends with a teacher who this was not natural for her. And this most definitely was not her natural pace.
Mhm.
I'm sure you know.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So coaching her, it was all about the planning.
Yeah.
Because she said to me when I modeled in her class, first she hit me with, I was the principal. First she hit me with, my students can't do that, because she had seen me do it. And I
Mhm.
had gone in Christy's class in fifth grade classroom. And so our friend said to me, well, my kids can't do that. My kids aren't able to do that. That's fifth grade. And she taught a lower grade. I'm like, yes, they can. So my second step was then to model in her classroom with her students. And then she said to me, but I will never be able to do that. You can do that, but that's how you are, Angie. And, she knew me very well outside of school. And I'm like, it isn't me. This is not a me thing. This is not a personality trait. This is not me being dramatic. This is not, yes, I am an energetic person. I am. I've been called the Energizer Bunny. Yes, I am. But I told her, this is about the planning. And to show her that, I'm like, I had made a copy of her lesson plan book. And so then I look at my notes compared to your notes. And it's funny to me now because earlier you said, try this in math. She actually got the pacing down in math.
Yes. Mhm.
She did. She came to it easier because she loved to do whiteboards in math.
Yep.
And so then she said, oh, wait, I am doing that. And so she became better at it with math and then use that
Mhm.
skill set to then
Yep.
lead into and then got that way and got to that level in reading. So, can teachers still deliver brisk, perky instruction? Absolutely, because great delivery is not about personality, it's about intention. It's about intentional moves, intentional planning. Brisk pace also doesn't mean loud. It
No,
doesn't
I was
mean
gonna
it
point
does
that
not
out.
it doesn't mean dramatic. One of the best I've ever seen as a kindergarten teacher that I had the amazing privilege of being her principal, Ashley. Ashley Palmer is brilliant at this. She would lean over and say in a whisper, what's the name of our character, or what sound is in the middle of this word?
Mhm.
Cat. What sound do we hear in the middle of cat? Whisper it to your partner. Yes, everyone said the right sound. Now whisper it to me. Backs up straight. Finger on the next one. I mean, because she's not a loud, boisterous person, but it's clear, it's purposeful, it's engaging. So even quiet teachers, calm teachers can
Mhm.
deliver instruction with high energy. How? By planning check ins, by planning the responses, by pacing wisely, and keeping students constantly involved. And I also want to point out, I had someone say to me, oh, so this is like teaching like your hair's on fire. No, it's not. No. This has been thrown at me as a consultant. It's not frantic.
No. Mm-mm.
It's brisk, perky. it's not frantic. It isn't that it's energetic. No, it's well designed.
Mhm.
It's well designed and it's intentional. It's
And sometimes,
purposeful,
yeah,
intentional, and strategic. You want to add
when
to
you're
that?
when you're new to the process, it can feel frantic because it might feel completely foreign, completely different from what you've been doing before. If you've been very lecture heavy, and if you've kind of, moved at a slower pace, at a slower rate, oh yeah, you're gonna be like, what did I just live through? That was incredible, but whoa, I'm exhausted. And so it's really just over time when it feels more natural and when you get to the point that you're not necessarily like having to sit for 5 minutes thinking like, okay, what am I going to do with this one question? When you're thinking about your delivery becomes quick, that's when it really comes together and it really starts to feel more natural. Mhm.
Yes.
Because
And I've seen teachers take it too with coaching. Okay, so what are the choral responses? I'll coach them. Let's just figure out what are your choral responses for this going to be. Or let's get it so that when you go over just your learning intention and success criteria, let's have that be Let's have that be extremely explicit in the delivery with lots frequent echo,
yep.
frequent responses. Then let's go to explicit vocabulary, where then let's have the vocabulary part of the lesson.
Mhm.
Phonics is such a great time, a phonics lesson, because you can have so many of those, quick responses.
Yeah.
So I have before have had teachers get really comfortable in one part of the lesson
Mhm.
and then let that
And then
start
it
carrying
naturally
over.
flows. Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
naturally flowing into other parts of the day and other parts of that
Yeah,
reading block. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so this is I don't I don't even really know how to rationalize this question for myself because I've always seen it as the opposite, but I think I'm in the minority with that. The majority
Okay.
of people, when you talk about explicit instruction, they're like, it's too scripted. And I'm like, what? So, just some teachers worry that explicit instruction is too scripted. What do you say to them?
Well, I'm going to be really honest. You love to be unfiltered. I like to be very filtered, but I
I have
am
to live
going
an
to actually
unfiltered life.
just be brutally honest on this one. What did you say?
I have to live an unfiltered life or my head would
So,
explode.
yes, and I am very like, oh, let me think about how I'm going to respond to that. So, this is one though, this kind of bristles me. And I'm going to be brutally honest. It isn't scripted at all. And I've also heard it say people have said to me it's robotic. No, it
No,
isn't.
this
No,
is where your creativity thrives.
exactly. And I've also heard teachers say, "Oh, it's scripted, it's robotic, there's no autonomy." Oh my gosh, this
When
is
you're
kind of
doing it
like one of
right.
my hills to die on. I don't feel it's that way at all. I think I think it's the opposite of that. I think it's where you get to be so creative in how do I want the students to respond. But I have forced myself, literally stopped and made myself think about, okay, put myself in their shoes. How is it that they could think that?
I
Okay.
just had an aha moment for how people could think that. You go ahead and share.
Okay. Okay. So hold on to yours. Don't forget it. So I get that, but scripting a lesson and designing a lesson is not about the robotic delivery. It's about clarity. It's
Right.
about having the clarity of what you want students, what you want their responses to be, and what you want to elicit from them. So when you script the key parts when you're designing the lesson, but you're also modeling like the question you will ask when you'll have students respond. So I think it actually gives you the freedom to teach the way you want to teach instead of trying to make decisions in the moment. And great delivery to me, it feels natural because it is so well planned. So I have always felt like it's a much smoother delivery and it really flows because I've put all my timing into the planning.
Mhm.
And I feel like that is such a creative outlet. And I feel like that's where the creativity for teachers really comes to life. What's
Oh,
the
it
what's the
is.
aha
It
that
is.
you had?
Okay. I don't know. I don't know why it took me so long to come to this realization. If you don't have the perky pace, that's when it feels robotic. Think about it. If you're just asking questions,
Oh my gosh, yes.
repeat after me, da da da. Well, my God, that's miserable, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what it is when you're missing that pace. Of course it would feel robotic. But this is another thing that I love. Teachers want a scripted curriculum, but then complain when there's too much scripting. And I'm just like, well, are we going to have to pull a million resources to add to this? You either, like they don't want it scripted, but they don't want to have to pull additional resources
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. It's very confusing. But, sometimes when you're not providing explicit instruction and you don't have that perky pace, you don't know what you're missing. And so you can't specifically say, like, oh, this is what I need or this is what I want, because you don't know what it is that you need or what it is that you want. But there's a teacher that I work with, and she says this all the time. And the first time she said it to me, I looked at her and my response was, I love you. And she probably thought I was a freak, but like I was just so genuinely like, yes, yes, finally someone who sees it. She always says, she's like, teaching is an art form.
It is. I
Is an
agree.
art
Oh
form.
yeah.
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 She's like, the delivery, the planning, that is an art form. And she is 100% correct. So in our family of four, you, dad, myself, and my younger brother, I have always said, I'm like, I missed out on the artistic, like, gene. You can all draw, you can play instruments. Like, I definitely missed out on that. My brother can create one of the most beautiful bulletin boards you've ever seen. And
He's
finally,
so
my dad,
good.
it's just
He's
ridiculous.
so good.
He's so good at it. It's actually pretty cool.
Ah,
But one time my dad said to me, he was like, oh my gosh, you make me crazy when you say this. He's like, do you not see that like your creativity and like your artistic form of expression is like your writing and like the way that like you interpret a text when you read it? And I was like, oh, that does make sense. What to some people would be, a canvas with their paints, that to me is, writing a lesson and adding in the questions and making it all flow and making it connect and make sense. It truly is, it's an art form.
for me, it is honestly the joy of teaching.
Yeah.
When
Hmm.
I'm delivering an explicit lesson and hearing the gasp I heard
Yeah.
in your room, seeing the looks on every face in that
Hmm.
classroom, where they're all the energy, the buzz, the electric energy that was in that room that day. That to me is just the joy and the job that we get to do and
Absolutely.
experience and feel that learning. Like it truly is a feeling. Like when you had asked me earlier, and I said, it's a feeling. It is. And I want that in every room for every teacher
Right.
in every single school, whether it be private, charter, public, I don't care.
Yes.
Elementary, high school, middle school, college. I want it everywhere when we're training
Mhm.
adults. I mean, I do explicit delivery when I'm working with adults,
And that's
but
why they love
I just it's just the joy, the joy.
you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so are we running low on time? I feel like we're running low on time.
We can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Um, all right, so let's see. What do I feel is the most important? What do I want to bring out here? Okay, so what are the look fors? What should your school leaders be looking for? What should they be using when they're observing the delivery in a classroom?
Well, okay, so I just want to take a step back for just a second. When they go in to observe, I always feel like this is necessary to say. It's not about an evaluation. It's not a gotcha. But we are looking, our look fors are what do teachers need coaching in next? That's that
Yeah.
mindset they should have when they walk in. But possible look fors are, and I always like a common walkthrough tool. Schools I work through, I provide them with that. But one, student responses. Are there, first and foremost, are teachers eliciting frequent student responses? Okay, multiple in a minute. Is the teacher stopping and checking for understanding? Because you're not going to have that quick pace if the teacher's heavy on teacher talk. You're
Yeah.
not going to have, if they're lecturing, you're not going to have those frequent student responses. I don't even remember who said this. Maybe Anita Archer. I don't really remember. Maybe Vicki Gibson. I can't remember who taught me this, but the people doing the talking are the people doing the learning.
Yep.
And so we need the students responding. Is the pace brisk? But manageable, not frantic, but is it manageable? And then look for those transitions in those classrooms. Are they smooth? Are they tight? If not, help coach the teachers on how to make those
Yep.
routines. Help them build those explicit routines. Help them have those smooth, tight transitions. But most importantly, are students actively thinking and actively engaging with the content? And if not, that's where those are the things that we should coach the teachers on. But first and foremost, go into those classrooms and see if you're getting frequent student responses. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so now our next question to kind of feed off of that is how can coaches support teachers in improving delivery without overwhelming them? I'm just going to be unfiltered and say, first and foremost, your coach needs to understand what explicit instruction is and the difference between delivery and
Yes.
design. We want to make sure that all of our people in a district, all of our people in a building have that knowledge so that then they
Yes.
can share with others and help others improve.
Yes. And the principals too.
Yes.
And the principals that are listening and teachers that are listening for your principals, you can share this with them. The principals cannot place this responsibility on the coaches. So this is, now we do need coaches who can coach teachers. Okay.
Yep.
But how can coaches support teachers? Modeling in the classroom and then not doing all of it. Like we mentioned earlier, focus on one move, one thing at a time. Maybe this week it's going to be, let's build in 3 core responses in this lesson.
Yeah.
What are they going to be? How am I going to ask? And when are they going to come in the lesson? Next week, we'll start working on tightening transitions. Also, they've got to be prepared to model. In education, I really feel seeing is believing.
Mm-hmm.
When you see it modeled, you're like, oh my gosh, I can do that. Hearing it, reading about it, it's not the same. Seeing it is believing. Seeing it in action, get in the classrooms and model. And for coaches, go first to the rooms of the people who are most receptive, that are hungry for the information. Start there, but do one thing at a time. This is not perfected all at once. Show them, model for them what that perky pace actually
Yes.
looks like, what it sounds like. Let them be in the room. Let them be one of the students that's responding right
Mm-hmm.
along with their students so they know what it feels like.
Yes.
And then coaches and principals celebrate all small wins. That helps make this be safe to try new things. Celebrate. Even if a teacher tries it and fails, celebrate that they tried it.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate every single small win because delivery is a skill.
It is.
It's a skill. As you said, it's an art form. It is a skill and it gets stronger like all skills do.
Mhm.
It gets stronger with reps and feedback.
Yep.
Tom
And
Brady did not throw the perfect pass his first time.
no.
Best
And
quarterback of all time.
he may
But he
have.
wasn't perfect. He wasn't perfect the very first time. And his coaches have said about him, he practiced longer, harder, more, and better planned than anybody else. He had put more time in the planning before game than anybody else. So delivery's a skill. It gets stronger with reps and feedback and great coaching. Great athletes don't become great athletes by themselves. They become great athletes because they've got a great coach behind
Yes.
them.
And another place that I just thought of that would be, a really simple way to start with those frequent questions and eliciting those student responses. Take your favorite read aloud. If you teach in a lower grade, take your favorite picture book and just practice reading during your 15-minute read aloud time and asking students questions like, oh my gosh, Pete the cat just dropped his ice cream. What did he do? Dropped his ice
Dropped his
cream.
ice cream.
And that's a pleasant, laid back. Sometimes when you dive straight into the curriculum, it feels a little overwhelming, especially because let's be honest, curriculum isn't always clear. There are some times that I have to sit back and be like, okay, why are they asking this question? Where exactly am I going to find the answer to this question? And now how do I relay that to my students? So take something simple like a picture book, get comfortable for yourself, and then start working it in to the curriculum. Now, I'm not saying take 2 to 3 months with picture books. No, I'm saying take 2 to 3 days. Just like, okay, I'm doing this. This is what this should feel like. Okay, now I'm ready to get into the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah, good
welcome.
grace, I was afraid you hated it. I never really knew.
No, never. No. My serious face gets a little serious looking if I'm deep in thought. No.
Serious looking, scary, however you want to label it.
Okay, well,
Okay. Now,
potato.
if you could improve just one delivery skill across all classrooms, what would it be?
Hands down, frequent student responses.
Yeah.
Frequent student responses. It increases engagement, it improves retention, it increases the number of repetitions, it gives teachers real-time feedback. It helps you check for comprehension. If the students are with you or if they are not.
Yep.
So if the students are responding every few seconds, that classroom is alive and learning is happening.
Absolutely.
And you can look at the data. There is a correlation and a connection. You can look at the rooms where there is that explicit delivery, and those rooms will have higher student data when they're having those more frequent student responses because the students are learning. They're
Yeah.
engaged. They're getting those frequent chances to respond. They're getting those frequent repetitions. They're getting that mastery. You're able to scaffold. You've got time. I mean, there's that sense of urgency.
By doing that, by having every student respond, you're showing them that they can't opt out. You're making everyone opt in. And when they live those moments of whole group teaching of, oh, no, I have to do this. I have to stay with it. Well, that's going to carry over when they go to do something independently too, of like, no, I can't opt out. I have to think through this. That's what I say it in my classroom all the time. Opting out is not an option. You have to do this.
I love it. Yes.
And I remind them, you can do hard things. It's okay for your brain to not know the answer right away. You have to work through it. And so, so many times, like when they're doing work independently, well, I don't know how to do this. Well, I guarantee that you do. Because if you didn't, I wouldn't have given it to you. So I need you to think, what are the different ways that I could solve this? Think back to the conversations that we had earlier. And if then you still don't understand, okay, then we'll come back and we'll do it together. But have you exhausted every resource that you have? Have you said to myself, I can't opt out. I have to do this,
Yeah. But it's no opt out. And again, as I mentioned earlier in today's episode, with our wording, and I don't think teachers are doing it intentionally. Can someone tell me, does anyone know? We are, with our wording, allowing students to opt out, and we've got to stop. It's killing us, and it's killing the instruction. So if there's one thing that we can do, get everyone responding.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I still have those moments when I say, who knows or who can tell me, because that's the school environment that I grew up in. It's what's natural to me. That was the
Yeah.
college environment I grew up in.
And
You
and
know?
I had it when I was training your staff the other day on this. One of the teachers said, I forgot what grade she was in. All your coworkers were great to work with, by the
They're
way. It
lovely
was
people.
yeah, lovely. Man, what a great team. But one of them said, "Oh, I'm going to have to train myself. I'm going to have to train myself." And I
Mhm.
told her, "Listen, when I went through this training, I would have to stop and say, nope, let me rephrase that."
Yeah.
And I said, so just do that. When you said, nope, let me rephrase that.
Hmm.
I don't want one. I want all, let me rephrase that. Sarah was so gracious about doing that. I know you observed a lot and co-taught with her son. And she was great. And she would say, let me stop. I can ask that in a better way. And I
Yep.
loved that. She would say, let me ask that. I can ask, let me re-ask that. Will you allow me to do that? I can ask that in a better way. And, the kids were so gracious. They
Mhm.
would say, yes, of course. And so, I can do better than that. Let me ask it like this. And then she would smile at me when I was in the room, but, and it's okay because it is, we've got to work on that delivery and really perfecting it. Like you said, it's an
We
art form
believe
and getting
it.
it right.
Yes. We believe it for our kids, so we should believe it for ourselves.
Yes, yes,
Progress over perfection. It's not going to be
yes.
perfect right away, but we've got to keep making progress. We've got to keep doing better.
Amen, amen, amen. Yes. Way to go, girl. Way to go.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
But,
We are to the end of our time now.
okay.
So,
All right. Do you have anything that you want to add?
just teachers, as Gretchen so eloquently started off, it is January, and I know it can be dull. I know. I know the weather's not great and it's snow days here and there. And sometimes we can lose that energy. Explicit instruction and explicit delivery can bring such a level of engagement, energy, and joy into the classrooms. Let's work on that. Let's work on getting 100% of students engaged in the content, 100 brains firing, all means all, exclamation mark. Let's work on that. Let's say that this is the year. I'm so excited. Gretchen, this is the year that we are going to perfect our delivery, that we're going to make progress over perfection, that we're going to really work on how we deliver our lessons. And we are going to every single day have explicit delivery.
Yes.
It will dramatically change the energy in your room, the
Hmm.
feel, the presence in your room, and the scores. It will
Hmm.
transform the learning in the
Yes.
classroom. And the students
Yes.
will just love it.
Hmm.
And they can't wait to get there.
And it
So
can be done. It can.
it,
It
it
can be done.
absolutely can.
Yes.
Yes.
And it will
Yes.
rock your world. And actually, it makes me feel more energized throughout
Me
the day
too.
when I
Me
teach.
too.
Yeah,
Me too. I
absolutely.
love it. And it makes the day go by so quickly.
God, yes. And that's
Makes
what we
it
all
feel
need.
so good. Yeah.
But, well, I I love teaching and I love that quick pace and I love the energy, but you know, I do get out of the second semester a little bit this year because I will be going on maternity leave soon. But you know what? When I've been up all night with a sweet little newborn baby and I'm exhausted, you guys are going to replenish my energy because I'm going to think about all the awesome things that you're doing in
That
your
is
classroom.
right.
Don't
Yes.
throw your tomatoes at me as I'm sitting on my couch on St. Patrick's Day and all your students are pinching each other and you feel like you're going to lose your mind because I know you're going to rock it.
Yes, they are. We can do this. Yes.
Yes.
It's going to be great.
Yes, it will.
Yes.
But okay, everyone. So, just a reminder we are Grit and Grace, a literacy journey. Please listen and tell others to listen as well. And Grit and Grace, a literacy journey is a production of Angela Hanlon and Associates. And if you haven't checked out our website and signed up for our newsletter, please do. Please do. Lots of great information there too. So, all right, with that, happy January, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Grit